there is the whiff of criminal action. And no doubt that will end up where it should do in the courts, because if you cheat, if you have insider trading knowledge, then you have knowledge that the other side of the bet doesn't have, and that's cheating, and that's wrong, and it is illegal under recent legislation that we brought in.
Election betting, two Conservative frontbenchers and an ex-Labour parliamentary candidate are the latest to be caught in a betting scandal. The Conservative member of the Senate for Montgomeryshire, Russell George, has become the fifth Conservative to face inquiries by the Gambling Commission. The Scottish Secretary, Alistair Jack, says he bet on the general election date 3 times, but not with any insider knowledge. And the ex-Labour candidate for Central Suffolk and North Ipswich MP, Kevin Craig, says he made a stupid error betting he would lose. Edwina, we're bandying around the term veteran today, but you are indeed a veteran of campaigns, of election campaigns, of politics generally. Are you surprised that this betting is going on, and how outraged should we be?
Well, I think a lot of it is fairly trivial. Let me tell you something. Back in the 1980s and the early 90s, Ladbrokes used to approach, I don't think all candidates, but shall we say a select group of candidates, and would say to us, you can have a free £100 bet as long as you are photographed outside your local Ladbrokes office waving a collection of pound notes, and you can bet on basically whatever you like to do with the election. And several times I said, thank you very much indeed, that's fine. Got photographed, I think, in swaddling coat. And I would always bet on my side winning. We got to keep the winnings, which wasn't very much, I think, in 1987, because the odds were that we were going to absolutely romp home as we did. But in 92, it was a pound or two, and very nice indeed. It was seen as a light-hearted thing to do with a little bit of nice publicity for Ladbrokes, and absolutely nobody thought it was immoral or criminal, for heaven's sake. What we have got here is there is the whiff of criminal action, and no doubt that will end up where it should do in the courts, because if you cheat, if you have insider trading knowledge, then you have knowledge that the other side of the bet doesn't have, and that's cheating, and that's wrong, and it is illegal under recent legislation that we brought in. Everything else, I think, is trivial, and we should all calm down.
What do you make of the Labour one? Because you talk about betting on yourself, betting on your party. I think no one would object to that. It doesn't really make any difference to anyone if you do that. But Kevin Craig, he bet that he would lose. Now, maybe that's not immoral, but I mean, there is a version of events. If you bet that you're going to lose, you could throw the campaign, couldn't you? I'm not saying he would do that, but that's the danger. If you bet you're going to lose, it could impact your behaviour in order to win your bet. Now, I'm not saying that's happened at all, but that's a potential area there, maybe.
It could be, but in fact, what it suggests is that he thinks that his behaviour wouldn't have made a scrap of difference to the outcome, that at that stage he was going to lose, and suddenly, actually, they're well ahead, and it looks like he's going to win, and it makes him look like a complete idiot. I think he's got a little bit of form on looking like a complete idiot. Am I right?
I think maybe some people would say that. Maybe some people would leap to his defence. Giles, how much are you driving the outrage bus? Are you standing scratching your head as it screeches off into the distance?
I looked at the story because your lovely producer sent it through to me this morning. I mean, I'm very much off election. When I'm looking for sort of ideas and things, I feel like it's eating up lots and lots of space. It's doing what Brexit used to do. I got a whiff of this story. I mean, it's very much day 473 of an election campaign, this, I think. I mean, the notion, Edwina says this Tory MP had insider knowledge. The idea of anyone in this current group of Tory MPs having knowledge of anything, inside or outside, is hilarious. There are so many questions. I'd want to know things like the Labour guy who bet against himself. What odds did he get? Are these guys gamblers who understand the betting system and take advantage of odds? Or are they just having this one bet on this one thing?
Yeah.
Because betting against yourself, famously, when England were a 500 to 1 to win the Headingley Test in 1981, the famous Botham Test, Dennis Lilly and Rod March saw that it was 500 to 1, and they thought, "Struth, mate, it's worth a tenner." Went down to the Headingley Ladbrokes, put a tenner on, and they made £5,000 each. And they then tried really hard to win the Test match, and they tried even harder when they realised it was going to get out that they bet. And Australia went absolutely tonto at them. So it's very much it's like the morality question is also there that Edwina talks about. It was Blair's government that thought it was going to be a good thing to open up gambling. Gambling used to be a thing that men went in through a little door into Ladbrokes with their racing post and a fag after a couple of beers, and they did it inside. And women and children weren't children weren't allowed to see it, and women didn't really go in there. And then they opened it all up, and they made it and they put it all online, so you can. I never used to bet, but I've got an online betting app. These guys are sitting there. It's online. I think it's another facet of sort of internet corruption. These guys would never have gone into a betting shop locally where they were known and put the bet on. I don't know, how did it get out that they'd done it? It's ultimately, though, I don't care.
That's good to know.
That's some good stuff there. And then it
don't care.
Dipped a bit at the end.
Right, we're going to talk about Kemi Badenoch now, who has said that she will not shut up over the rights of women after the actor David Tennant said he wished she did not exist. A few of you have said, I want to hear this clip, so here it comes. The former Doctor Who actor was speaking at the British LGBT Awards on Friday.
Until we wake up and Kemi Badenoch doesn't exist anymore, I don't wish ill of her, I just wish her to shut up.
I'm sure if she was there, she'd say it's Badenoch, actually. He also said he wished he did not live in a world where his support for gay and trans people was worth remarking on. Now, Kemi Badenoch has a response which she put on X. I will not shut up. I will not be silenced by men who prioritise applause from Stonewall over the safety of women and girls. A rich, lefty, white male celebrity so blinded by ideology he can't see the optics of attacking the only black woman in government by calling publicly for my existence to end. Tennant is one of Labour's celebrity supporters. And maybe this is the crucial bit. This is an early example of what life will be like if they win, says Kemi Badenoch. Edwina Currie, what do you make of? I mean, there's a lot to discuss here, obviously. There's the whole debate around who can say what and who's being silenced and all the rest of it. Does it help when celebrity supporters of particular parties weigh in?
I'm remembering Kenny Everett waving a large plastic hand at a party conference some years ago and talking about bombing the Russians.
Yes.
Not usually. And not least because some celebrities tend to weigh in when they think their side is winning. You won't hear them supporting their side when they think it's losing. There's an element of protecting their brand there. And I'm actually quite upset at Tennant because back 30 years ago, 1994, I was very much involved in helping to change the law and I think change attitudes towards gay rights. We brought in legislation. We got a big debate against howls of objection from both sides, from Labour as well. And I worked very closely with Stonewall, which at that time was really fiercely strong on the rights of people who were being persecuted. Now it's got very much more complicated, not least because there seems to be a bit of a conflict between the rights of trans men and women and the rights of gay men and the rights of women generally. And it's not that difficult to put into a single sentence, I think. If a trans woman goes into a man's toilet, she may face all sorts of problems. But if somebody pretending to be a trans woman goes into a woman's toilet, he may be doing something that really is very dangerous. And that's the difficult issue. How do you deal with all of that? How do you protect genuinely trans people? And how do you stop the predators? Kemi, I think, is on the side of those who would say, a woman is a woman. It's not that difficult. A man is a man. It's not that difficult. Show me your trousers or what's inside of them. And I'm afraid David Tennant receiving... I don't think David himself was so much at fault. I think the people who are shouting support for a rather extreme view really ought to examine their consciences.
Giles, what kind of went through your mind as you were listening to that clip of David Tennant?
I thought, why have you got Mrs. Doubtfire voicing Doctor Who? I always forget that this man this actor, who's not a bad actor, who had this beautiful voice, he actually sounds like sort of wee Jimmy Cranky / Nicola Sturgeon / Mrs. Doubtfire.
No, hang on a second.
It's just an old Scottish lady, old Scottish cleaning lady. It's really weird. But because he sounds so whingy. Listen, there's many and also, sorry, you will agree, as a Scotsman, he should pronounce Badenoch, right?
Yeah.
First thing,
Yes.
I know Kemi a bit, met a few times. First thing, she corrected me immediately when I said Badenoch because I thought I was getting that right. So he should. That's rude. I think the response, the thing with Kemi, he said this thing. He's just what you do. Like it's like the people on the news quiz, anyone on the BBC, the ghastly shows. Have I got news for you? You just say Tories, and everyone boos, and you've just done that. You just name a Tory MP. It's so depressing. I love Kemi's response, and look, Kemi's also she's mad and angry and totally mental. I'm sure she'll never be prime minister, but I love her. And what she's done in going rich lefty white male celebrity attacking only black women, those are not Kemi's parameters. Kemi does not see herself as a black
Exactly.
woman.
That I found that really bizarre that she said that. Actually,
she's used. No, but she's used his terminology. There's cant nonsense ideological, identity-driven rubbish of the sort of wussy celebrity left. She's hit him back with that. He hasn't realised. She's gone, whoops, David. She knows that in the world that men like David Tennant and the Labour Party have created, someone like Kemi can just go, yeah, I'm a black woman. Look what you've done. And I think that's interesting that she's done that. As for Tennant, his leftiness, which was the original way you brought this up. Celebrities, mostly actors, they do it to make themselves feel important. Okay, people like David Tennant, their actors are broadly dim. They don't know anything. They haven't read. They spent their whole time at school prancing about, pretending to be, the fairy and as you like it, or whatever, and never paid attention in school. So they end up doing this job. All their friends, because of the odds of success in acting, all their friends are failures. So they're all driven by guilt. People like Brian Cox ended up getting on, that tedious Welshman, Michael, whatever his name is, Sheen, is it? Emma Thompson. Most of their contemporaries, well, not Emma because she went to Cambridge, but most of their contemporaries from drama school have failed. And they've got massive houses all over the world, super wealthy, faces they feel so guilty that they have to stand up and pretend to care about the poor. And they do that by espousing the Labour Party.
Edwina, I want to ask you actually just about the last bit of what Kemi Badenoch said, because she said this is an early example of what life will be like if Labour win. And we've been asking female listeners whether they're going to vote for Labour because there has been a bit of flip-flopping on the gender issue. Do you think that's a powerful point that she's making?
Yes, I do. Incidentally, may I say I agree with everything that Charles was saying there. I thought that was quite brilliant. Quite brilliant. There you go. That justifies your existence for today, Charles. I think you are a national treasure.
I won't go that far.
Yes.
I think he's allowed to exist. I'm not sure he's a national treasure.
And bear in mind, of course, the stance of J.K. Rowling, who is recognised as being doughty on this, and Sharon Davis, the swimmer, and their anxieties about supposedly trans women muscling in on women's areas, women's sport and so on. Those are serious issues, which has taken some time for the progressives of our world to get their heads around. And there are women who are concerned about it, people in very vulnerable places, in refuges, in prison, for example. These issues have got to be attended to. They've got to be tended to robustly because you're dealing with predators. And I think Kemi and J.K. Rowling and people like that have to be listened to. And what Kemi is saying is, this is not going to be taken seriously if the minority views and, as Charles says, the gender politics of the Labour Party, the current Labour Party, become dominant.